What if Mace Windu had sensed Anakin's betrayal? What would happen then? Let's find out. So in this timeline, everything would be the same as in the original timeline until Mace Windu is standing over Palpatine, ready to strike down the Sith Lord once and for all. Anakin would be yelling out at Mace to not kill the Chancellor and that he should stand trial, but Mace doesn't listen. But then, deviating from the original timeline, Mace senses something within Anakin. He senses betrayal. So side note, in the original timeline as explained in the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, Mace Windu has a unique force ability called Shatterpoint, which basically allows him to see the most vulnerable point in anything. Be it a person, a ship, an armor, a plan, a plot to destroy the Jedi, Mace's ability would allow him to see the most crucial, vulnerable, or weakest aspect of it. So in the original timeline, as he was standing over Palpatine, Mace sees that Palpatine's trust in Anakin is his Shatterpoint, meaning his trust in Anakin was going to make it or break it for Palpatine. And Mace, as a result, trusting that Anakin was on his side, believed he had everything under control, only for Anakin to betray him. This happened because while he had seen Palpatine's Shatterpoint, Mace had not seen Anakin's Shatterpoint, which was Anakin's need to keep Palpatine alive. But in this new timeline, Mace does see Anakin's Shatterpoint, leading to the timeline diverging significantly. Anyways, coming back to the story, whereas he is about to strike down Sidious, Mace sees Anakin's Shatterpoint, the Chosen One's need to keep Darth Sidious alive. And with this, Master Windu also sees the imminent betrayal from Anakin. Mace realizes that Anakin will do whatever he needs to keep Palpatine alive, not because he was a friend, but rather, Anakin wanted something from Sidious. The Sith Lord had manipulated Skywalker, Mace realized, all the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Mace Windu's grip tightened around the hilt of his lightsaber, and just like in the original timeline, Mace raised his saber to deliver the finishing blow to Palpatine. And as he did so, Mace heard Anakin's desperate plea. "I need him," Anakin said. And in that instant, as if time had slowed down, Mace's thoughts coalesced with a stark realization. "So you believe, Skywalker?" Mace mused internally in response to this, the weight of Anakin's imminent betrayal settling in his heart. Yet, this betrayal would not find Mace unprepared. In this timeline, Windu, with the advantage of foresight lent by his Shatterpoint ability, held his lightsaber aloft, ready to deliver justice onto the Sith Lord beneath him. However, as Anakin ignited his lightsaber, moving with the frantic energy of one driven by fear and manipulation, Mace's preparation met the moment. He had seen this betrayal coming. He understood the depth of Anakin's need, the desperation that Palpatine had cultivated and exploited within Anakin. As Skywalker lunged, aiming for Mace's hand in a desperate bid to save Palpatine, Mace Windu's reaction was not only born of his Jedi training, but also from his acute awareness of the situation. With the grace and precision that had become his trademark, Mace sidestepped Anakin's attack, the younger Jedi's blade slicing through nothing but air. And then, in the same fluid motion, Mace brought his lightsaber down in a swift, arcing blow, targeting not Anakin's flesh but the cybernetic arm in which Skywalker gripped his blue lightsaber. And so, Mace Windu took Anakin's right arm, following which Anakin's weapon clattered to the ground, severed from its master's control. Shock and agony registered on Anakin's face, and Mace, ever the strategist, knew that allowing Anakin any moment to recover could spell disaster. And so, with a powerful, force-assisted leap, Mace closed the distance between him and Anakin, his boots barely whispering against the sleek floor. And following this, Mace executed a perfectly timed kick, one that leveraged Anakin's momentary disorientation and pain. The kick landed with precision, sending Anakin sprawling through the shattered window in Palpatine's office into the abyss of Coruscant's cityscape. All of this, from Anakin trying to take Windu's hand to Anakin now going through the window, happened in a flash. And Windu's connection to the Force revealed that Anakin's presence in the Force lingered. He was not dead, but as Mace Windu turned to confront Sidious now, any contemplation of Anakin's fate was abruptly cut short. Sidious, with a malicious grace, rose, unleashing a torrent of Force lightning. The Sith Lord's feigned weakness had been a ploy, a sinister bait, to precipitate Anakin's betrayal, Mace realized. The ensuing onslaught of Force lightning forced Mace Windu to his knees, his purple lightsaber strained under the barrage. The realization dawned on him, Sidious's power was overwhelming. However, Mace's resolve remained unshaken, and in this crucible of peril, Mace concocted a desperate, untested strategy. This strategy hinged on the inherent properties of the Kyber crystal, the heart of any lightsaber. Kyber crystals, almost sentient and alive with the Force, could, under extreme stress, unleash effects profound and unpredictable. So side note, an example of kyber crystals inducing visions in an individual comes from the Vader comics, where Vader tries to bleed the kyber crystals of a Jedi, during which Vader is presented with a vision where he turns to the light side, which Vader ultimately rejected. Anyways, back to the story. So after deciding to use his kyber crystals as a weapon, Mace Windu acted. Through the Force, he delicately unraveled the casting of his lightsaber, exposing the kyber crystals to the raw energies of Sidious's assault. The moment Sidious's lightning met the crystal, a resonant screech, a cry of agony and release, echoed through the Force. The sound was not merely auditory but resonated on the spiritual level, reverberating through the very essence of both combatants. The crystals then shattered, releasing a shockwave of energy and visions that hauled both Mace and Sidious backwards. The effect was immediate and disorienting, a maelstrom of images and possibilities flooding their senses, tapping into fears, hopes, and the myriad paths of his could have been or might yet be. Mace Windu, in the visions that were forced upon him, saw a future painted in these dark hues of despair and destruction. A galaxy ravaged under Emperor Palpatine's unyielding rule. Walls burned, the Jedi Order was no more, and darkness enveloped all hope. And then, as quickly as the vision came, it vanished, pulling Mace's mind back to the present, to reality. His eyes, now clear of the Force-induced vision, focused on Palpatine. And as Mace could see, the Sith Lord was still in the throes of his own visions, his body convulsing with the echoes of potential realities that had pierced his mind. Mace wasted no time. He understood all too well that Sidious, caught in the grip of his hallucinations, was vulnerable, and Mace also knew that this moment of vulnerability would not last too long, and that Sidious would at any moment snap back to reality. This moment, fragile and fleeting, was critical. The very fulcrum upon which the fate of the galaxy could pivot, Mace realized. Glancing around, Mace realized his lightsaber was destroyed, but he was far from defenseless. The Force was his ally, a weapon far mightier than any saber. And then Mace's gaze fixed upon the Neuranium statue of Seastros Nevet, an ancient sage whose statue Palpatine kept in his office. Neuranium, using which this statue was constructed, was known for its incredible density, and this made the statue not just an artifact, but a formidable projectile. Channeling the Force, Mace summoned the statue, feeling its substantial weight yield to his will, and then, with the thrust of his arm, Mace hurled the statue at Sidious, who was still lost in the grip of his visions. Meanwhile, ensnared in the web of his own induced nightmares, Sidious experienced a vision utterly alien to his dark ambition. He found himself younger, his hands unstained by the blood of countless innocents. What have I done? The question echoed in his mind, a specter of doubt that had never dared to whisper in his heart. And before Sidious, in this vision, stood his father, Kosinko Palpatine, a man who Palpatine hated and had killed a long time ago. But in this vision, Palpatine, who saw himself as a much younger man, found himself seeking his father's forgiveness, a concept normally as foreign to him as the light side of the Force. But then, this light side vision he quickly twisted, contorting with Sidious's intrinsic nature. Anger surged, and the phantom of his father was subjected to an all too familiar fate, forestoked by the hands that could have chosen a different path, yet remained steadfast in the path of the dark side. Then, in a millisecond, the vision fractured, reality crashing back with the imminent threat of the hurling Neuranium statue. Sidious's eyes snapped open, the last vestiges of the vision fading just as the statue crushed into him before he could react, extinguishing the Sith Lord's reign of terror in a singular, decisive act. The opulent office of the Supreme Chancellor then fell silent, save for the heavy breaths of Mace Windu. Again, without wasting any time, Mace Windu acted swiftly, his mind already turning towards the aftermath and the necessary steps to secure the future of the Republic. His first action was to call in the 187th Legion of Clone Troopers, the unit he personally commanded, to secure the Chancellor's office. The scene that surrounded Mace Windu was a somber tableau of the conflict stole, 3 fallen Jedi, the vanquished Sith Lord, and much more. These pieces of evidence were crucial, not just for the Jedi, but for the entire galaxy to understand the magnitude of what exactly had transpired. And then, without delay, Windu reached out to the remaining members of the Jedi High Council. His message to them was grave yet clear. Palpatine, the Chancellor, was dead. This revelation would have been shocking enough, but the circumstances of his demise, that he was in fact Darth Sidious, who had manipulated Anakin Skywalker to his side, added layers of disbelief and urgency to the situation. And then, following this, In tandem with Bail Organa, a trusted ally in the Senate and the steadfast supporter of the Jedi, Mace had an emergency session of the Galactic Senate called upon. And shortly after this, Mace Windu was standing before the assembled representatives of the Republic. And as he stood there, Mace recounted the harrowing events that led to Palpatine's death. He spoke of the Sith and their insidious role in galactic history, revealing how Sidious had masterminded the Clone Wars, pitting the galaxy against itself for his dark ambitions. Further, in his address to the Senate, Mace Windu centered his argument on the clear evidence of Palpatine's guilt, which was underscored by the violent confrontation where Palpatine attacked and killed 3 Jedi Masters who attempted to arrest him legally. Using this, Mace challenged the senators. If Palpatine were innocent, why would he kill 3 Jedi sent to detain him legally? This question was aimed with the purpose of highlighting Palpatine's malevolence. And then even further, Mace chose to bring Anakin Skywalker into the narrative, noting his significant role in revealing Palpatine as Darth Sidious. By doing so, Mace sought to capitalize on Anakin's esteemed reputation and the trust the Republic had in him to strengthen the Jedi's case against Palpatine. Mace revealed that Palpatine had pushed Anakin out of the window, framing it as an act of desperation by the Sith Lord to remove a significant obstacle. So essentially, Mace lies to the Senate, never revealing to them that Anakin had tried to go against the Jedi. And Mace was well aware of the gamble in mentioning Anakin, particularly due to Anakin's previous actions under Palpatine's influence. However, Mace harbored a hope that, should Anakin return, he might see through Palpatine's manipulations and realign with the Jedi, aiding in their cause against Palpatine. Crucially, Mace had also acknowledged a pivotal concern. Whether or not he mentioned Anakin's contribution, the Jedi's position could be equally jeopardized. If Anakin returned to falsely accuse the Jedi of treason without being painted as an ally by Mace, that would place the Jedi in a similarly precarious situation as if they had named Anakin as their ally, and then he denied it. This reality underscored Mace's strategic decision to involve Anakin in his testimony, aiming to use every available measure to fortify the Jedi's stance while navigating the potential repercussions of Anakin's unpredictable loyalty. And then, as Mace announced the ongoing probe into Palpatine's schemes and the search for Anakin Skywalker, who was lost after Palpatine's attack, the Senate was left polarized, reflecting the gravity of the situation and the complex web of allegiances and betrayals that had come to light. Through his address, Mace navigated these intricate dynamics, hoping to marshal support against Palpatine, while preparing for the uncertain variable that Anakin represented. And now, let's get back to what happened to Anakin. So as Anakin Skywalker was kicked through the window by Mace Windu, his mind raced with panic. Plummeting through the dense urban canyons of Coruscant, he grappled with the tumultuous emotions roiling within him. But then, drawing on his formidable command of the Force, Anakin slowed his descent, a skill known among Force users to mitigate fatal falls. Landing with a controlled thud on the bustling streets below, Anakin found himself at a crossroads of confusion and fury. Anakin's immediate thought was to return, to ascend back to the Chancellor's office and confront the unfolding situation, to make sure that Palpatine stayed alive. Yet, as he prepared to make his move, an explosion of light-side energy rippled through the Force. This was of course the result of Mace Windu's Kyber crystal shattering. And then moments after sensing this explosion of light-side energy, Anakin sensed Palpatine's life force extinguish. It was unmistakable, a screech of the dark side, a realization that struck him with a crippling wave of hopelessness. His only hope of saving Padme Amidala was dead, because he wasn't strong enough to save him, Anakin felt. Standing alone amidst the chaos of Coruscant streets, Anakin wrestled with the magnitude of his actions. He had attempted to strike down a Jedi Master, a betrayal so profound that returning to the Jedi Order seemed inconceivable. Moreover, with Palpatine's demise, the secrets he hoped would save Padme, both those hidden within the Sith lore and the restricted archives of the Jedi, felt forever beyond his reach. The weight of his choices then bore down on Anakin even harder, leaving him adrift in a sea of despair, with no anger in sight, save, for one, his wife, Padme. And so, resigned and with nowhere left to run, Anakin went to his beater and made his way over to Padme's apartment. He then settled in the front area, a foyer that served as a quiet space before the privacy of the home. There, amidst the architectural beauty and the panoramic views of Coruscant, Anakin sat, lost in a silent reflection on his failures. His gaze was empty, a man staring out at a galaxy that felt increasingly alien to him. And at this point, C-3PO, ever the attentive droid, noticed Anakin's distress, and unable to elicit any response from Anakin, the droid promptly alerted Padme. Concerned as on her features, Padme arrived swiftly via her personal speeder, her heart heavy with worry for her husband. Upon arriving, Padme rushed to Anakin's side, her heart pounding with fear and concern, which was only amplified when she noticed that Anakin was missing an arm. "What's wrong, Anakin?" she asked, her voice laden with worry. Anakin, lost in a haze of despair, barely managed to respond. "I failed," Anakin whispered. "Failed at what, Anakin?" Padme prodded gently. "To save you," he replied, his voice barely above a murmur. In that moment, Padme realized the depth of Anakin's turmoil. Something had gone terribly wrong. And so, recognizing the enormity of the situation, Padme knew that Anakin might be in need of help that she might not be equipped to give. And so, she contacted Obi-Wan Kenobi, who at this point was on his way back to Coruscant after his victory over General Grievous. And Obi-Wan, already informed by Mace Windu of the catastrophic recent events, and what Anakin had tried to do, felt a surge of concern for his former apprentice. He understood the web of manipulation Palpatine had woven around Anakin, and he knew that he had to reach him quickly. "I'll be there soon, Padme," Obi-Wan assured her, his thoughts racing with worry for Anakin's well-being. So side note, Obi-Wan wouldn't be mad at Anakin, and the reason for this is because in the original timeline, when he finds out that Anakin has killed younglings, and Yoda tells him to go kill Anakin, Obi-Wan is still hesitant, saying that Anakin was like a brother to him, even though that brother has just killed younglings and aided in the fall of the Republic and the destruction of the Jedi Order. And so in this timeline, with Anakin not having done anything even remotely as bad as what he did in the original timeline, Obi-Wan would only seek to help his brother. Anyways, back to the story. Anakin remained in a near catatonic state, his mind grappling with the enormity of his actions and their, at least as he saw it, irreversible consequences. Padme, seeing Anakin's profound distress, decided to reach out to Ahsoka Tano as well. Ahsoka, in this timeline, had just returned to Coruscant from Mandalore, her successful campaign against the Mandalorian Overlord being the talk of the Holonet. And because of that, Padme of course knew that Ahsoka was on Coruscant. And when Padme called, Ahsoka's first question was about Anakin, her voice tinged with urgency and concern. It was as if Ahsoka had sensed that Anakin was in peril. It was true, but for different reasons. Ahsoka, of course, had no idea what happened with Anakin, Windu, and Palpatine. Instead, her fear for Anakin was a result of what Darth Maul had told her on Mandalore, about how Anakin was being manipulated by Darth Sidious into becoming a Sith apprentice. "Where is Anakin? I can't reach him on his comlink," Ahsoka inquired, her worry evident. And Padme, close friends with Ahsoka and aware of her deep bond with Anakin, revealed that he was with her, and implored Ahsoka to arrive immediately. "Anakin is here," Padme said, her voice a mix of relief and desperation. "Please come over, Ahsoka. I think he could use your help right now," Padme said. And without a moment's hesitation, Ahsoka responded. "I'll be there, Padme, immediately," she said. And as she waited for Obi-Wan and Ahsoka to arrive, Padme stayed by Anakin's side, still trying to get him to talk and tell her what exactly had happened. But given everything he was going through, Anakin couldn't even form the right words to try and explain things to Padme. A very short while later, Ahsoka Tano arrived at Padme's apartment in the Senate District on Coruscant, and immediately after arriving, Ahsoka rushed to Anakin's side. "What happened, Anakin? Where's your arm?" she inquired, her voice laced with worry and confusion. Anakin, taken aback yet visibly relieved by her presence, responded with a heavy heart. "You deserved a better master than me, Ahsoka," Anakin said. He then confessed how his perceived failures had led to her leaving the Jedi Order. "It wasn't your fault, Anakin," Ahsoka quickly responded, to absolve Anakin of any guilt that he may have felt. In fact, given what she was seeing, it was Ahsoka who felt a little guilty for leaving Anakin. Anyways, amidst this exchange, Ahsoka felt compelled to share the disturbing insights she had gleaned from Darth Maul that Anakin was being manipulated by Darth Sidious to become his apprentice, a puppet in Sidious's grand scheme to control the Republic. And so Ahsoka shared this revelation with Anakin. And as he listened to this, Anakin didn't feel surprised, as everything Ahsoka just said was proven to be true to him. Palpatine, his longtime friend, was Sidious. Everything Maul had told Ahsoka was true, Anakin realized. And Ahsoka, simply by looking at Anakin as he listened to all this, sensed that Anakin somehow already knew everything she was telling him. "Anakin, you know this. How?" Ahsoka asked. And before Anakin could respond to this, C-3PO, eager to draw everyone's attention, announced the following. Masters, you might want to see this. Activating a holoprojector, a live feed from the Senate chamber filled the room, showing Mace Windu delivering his testimony about Palpatine's true identity as Darth Sidious and the orchestration of the Clone Wars. As a side note, by the time Ahsoka is there talking to Anakin, Mace Windu is already in the Senate, revealing Palpatine's treason to everyone. So as the Senate session unfolded on the holoprojector, Padme became consumed with worry for the Republic and Anakin. Ahsoka grappled with feelings of betrayal and shock over Sidious's deceit. Everything Maul had said was proven to her, and even though she didn't want to think about it, it became clear to her how Palpatine could have manipulated Anakin over these years. And as for Anakin, hearing Mace Windu claim that he, Anakin, had exposed Palpatine and as a result had been attacked by Palpatine, initially wondered why Mace Windu would lie about such events. However, Anakin quickly understood the strategy behind Windu's words. His own reputation as the hero of the Clone Wars could lend the weight needed to sway the Senate against Palpatine. The Jedi needed him still, Anakin realized. The whole night broadcast soon ended, with Mace Windu ending the Senate session. And immediately as this happened, Padme and Ahsoka turned to Anakin, seeking an explanation for the events that had unfolded. But before Anakin could say anything, the sounds of an approaching speeder was heard. The speeder then stopped in front of Padme's residence, and Obi-Wan Kenobi disembarked the vehicle. Obi-Wan then approached Anakin, momentarily surprised by Ahsoka's presence, but quickly refocusing on the matter at hand. Obi-Wan's thoughts at this moment were a whirlwind, concerned for Anakin, yet cautious about the revelations that had unfolded. And seeing Obi-Wan, Anakin's heart sank. He could tell from his master's gaze that he was aware of everything. Anakin felt a mix of emotions, but not anger, rather a deep-seated apprehension about Obi-Wan's reaction. Understanding the sensitivity of the situation and recognizing that Padme and Ahsoka were unaware of the full extent of Anakin's actions, Obi-Wan suggested, with all due politeness, that he and Anakin need to speak in private, a request that Padme and Ahsoka quickly obliged to. And once alone, Obi-Wan didn't wait for Anakin to speak. "I know," Obi-Wan began, and going on to acknowledge Anakin as a victim of Palpatine's manipulation. Anakin remained silent throughout all of this, his mind racing with numerous thoughts. Obi-Wan then pressed for an explanation from Anakin, and Anakin, wishing to unburden his secrets, divulged everything. He spoke of his visions of Padme's death, the legend of Darth Plagueis, and his growing desperation as the Jedi Order was unable to offer him a solution to preventing Padme's death. As a side note, in the original timeline, Anakin realized that the Jedi Order itself couldn't help him when Yoda told Anakin to accept whatever he saw in his vision. And Anakin's only other plan after that point, before Palpatine told him the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, was to somehow convince Obi-Wan to go into the restricted section of the Jedi archives and retrieve information that could potentially save Padme. Obi-Wan could have gone into the restricted section because he was a master, which Anakin at that point was not. And then later on, furthering Anakin's belief that the Order would not help him, Obi-Wan was sent to Utapau, and he, Anakin, was not given the rank of master, which would have given him access to the restricted section of the archives, which is why he was so angry when he was denied the rank in the original timeline. Anyways, coming back to the story, Anakin told Obi-Wan that everything he did was in a desperate move to try and save Padme, and that he asked no other excuse. And then Anakin voiced his last hope, which again went to the restricted section of the Jedi archives. Anakin asked Obi-Wan if he, Obi-Wan, could go into the archives and figure out a way to save Padme. And Obi-Wan, seeing how desperate Anakin was for help, told him that he, Obi-Wan, would persuade Jocka Sinu to allow them both Anakin and Obi-Wan, access into the archives. So side note, as revealed in the Vader comics, it was possible for Anakin, a Jedi Knight, to gain access to the hidden section of the archives with Jocka Sinu's permission. So that's what Obi-Wan is talking about here. Jocka Sinu, the archivist, had the authority to allow a Jedi Knight access into the hidden section of the archives. And this promise by Obi-Wan appeared to bring some sense of calm back into Anakin's mind. And following this, Anakin mentioned how he cannot return to the Order, not after what he did. And Anakin's feelings that he was no longer a true Jedi was met with Obi-Wan's reassurance that Anakin had been under the dark side's influence, and he wasn't really himself, and he attempted to turn against Master Windu. Obi-Wan went on to argue that Anakin's initial actions in exposing Palpatine as the Sith were crucial to the Sith Lord's defeat, and that Anakin could still aid the Jedi by confirming Windu's testimony in the Senate, in person, as that would further the Republic's trust in Windu and the Jedi's words. and turn them against Palpatine. And then Obi-Wan aimed to alleviate some of Anakin's guilt, emphasizing that overlooking Anakin's struggle was also his own failings as Anakin's master. And convinced by Obi-Wan's arguments and seeing the opportunity to do right by the Republic and potentially save Padme, Anakin agreed to testify. And then later, standing before the Galactic Senate, Anakin Skywalker, the revered hero of the Clone Wars, corroborated everything Mace Windu had declared. Anakin detailed how he found out that Palpatine was Sidious, how Sidious had manipulated both sides of the war, and he also went on to detail his confrontation with Palpatine, including the loss of his cybernetic arm due to the Sith Lord's treachery. The Senate, swayed by Anakin's testimony, became almost unified in belief, the dissenting voices quickly being silenced. In the aftermath of all this, several things happened. The Senate, galvanized by the harrowing revelations of Chancellor Palpatine's dual identity as Darth Sidious, ordered a comprehensive investigation into the depths of Palpatine's conspiracy against the galaxy. And this investigation eventually unearthed a network of deceit, manipulation, and ambition that had fueled the Clone Wars, a conflict that had bled the Republic for years. Central to this inquiry into Palpatine was the interrogation of Mace Windu, Palpatine's right-hand man, whose testimony unraveled further evidence of the Chancellor's sinister machinations. Because Mace Windu, of course, knew that Palpatine was Sidious. And with Sidious's plans ultimately laid bare, the galaxy watched in horror and disbelief as the extent of his betrayal became known. And in the meanwhile, as all this was happening, the Separatist movement, already reeling from the loss of General Grievous and Darth Sidious, crumbled without its clandestine support structure. Leaders of the now leaderless systems, weary from years of conflict and loss, extended olive branches to the Republic, seeking to mend fences and rebuild the galaxy together. They do this because the Separatist leaders, the ones who remained by this point, know that they have lost the war, with peace agreements being their only hope at this point. The fallout of all these revelations about Palpatine also led to a reassessment of the clone troopers' role within the Republic. The claims of Clone Trooper 5s regarding inhibitor chips designed to turn the clones against the Jedi, and Palpatine's hand in it, were taken seriously now. The Jedi became certain that these inhibitor chips were part of Palpatine's plan, leading to a galaxy-wide operation where these inhibitor chips were removed from the clones, and the cessation of clone production on Kamino. As the immediate threat of war dissipated, influential senators like Padme Amidala and Bail Organa advocated for redirecting military expenditure towards rebuilding war-torn systems and aiding the millions affected by the conflict. So that's also a reason why clone production was stopped. It was getting expensive and these funds were better spent elsewhere, according to many in the Republic Senate. And in the meanwhile, immediately following Anakin giving his testimony before the Republic, Anakin and Obi-Wan were granted access to the hallowed Jedi archives by Jocasta Nu after some convincing by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Anakin's betrayal was not news outside the High Council, and Jocasta Nu, of course, did not know about this, so that helped with Anakin being granted access to the archives. As for the rest of the Council, they all came to believe that Anakin had fallen victim to Palpatine's manipulation, and that he wasn't really himself when he tried to turn on Master Windu. However, not all were so accepting of Anakin, but Anakin Skywalker at the moment didn't care about any of it. Thanks to Obi-Wan, his one and only focus at this point was going through the archives and finding a way to save Padme Amidala. And so Anakin began going over many Jedi texts, with a focus on the healing arts. But soon all this proved to be unnecessary, as one of the following days, when Anakin was consumed by research, he received an urgent alert on his comlink from C-3PO, telling Anakin that Padme Amidala had been taken to the Grand Republic medical facility. Anakin would ask C-3PO why this was, and C-3PO would tell Anakin that she had gone into labor, according to the medical droids in the hospital. Hearing this, Anakin became consumed with dread. Had his visions come true, he wondered? Anakin then abandoned all his research and immediately rushed to the Grand Republic medical facility, and once he got there, he found Padme Amidala alive and well, with their newborn twins, Luke and Leia, also doing well. The future he had feared, where Padme perished in childbirth, was a specter of a timeline erased with Palpatine's demise. This was essentially what Anakin gleaned from this whole scenario. But despite this joyous turn of events, Anakin wrestled with profound internal turmoil, which was only amplified with him now realizing that had he followed Palpatine, his visions may have become true. His actions, influenced by fear and desperation, had nearly led him down a path from which return seemed impossible. The guilt of his perceived betrayals now weighed even more heavier on Anakin. even as the Jedi Council, at least most of it, opened its arms in forgiveness. Feeling undeserving of his place among the Jedi Order and haunted by his failings, Anakin chose to step away from the Order, and as a result, joining the ranks of the Lost 20, which now became the Lost 21. So side note, the Lost 20 was the 20 Jedi who had willingly left the Order. The last one to do so, before Order 66, was Count Dooku. And after Anakin too left the Order, a statue of his face found its place next to that of Count Dooku's in the Jedi Temple. And as for what happened after, Anakin and Padme retreated to the serene landscapes of Naboo. Padme still held her position as Senator of Naboo, but she now changed her base of operation to Naboo, away from Coruscant, just like she had before the events of Attack of the Clones. And as for Anakin, he taught his children the ways of the Force as they grew older, imbuing them with the values of compassion, integrity, and most importantly, the importance of family and attachments. And though he had distanced himself from the Order, Anakin's bond with Obi-Wan and Ahsoka remained unbroken. His friendship with them a source of strength and connection to the life he had left behind. And so, at long last, the galaxy had found peace, or had it, because even though Darth Sidious had been killed, his real master, Darth Jar Jar, who was actually Darth Plagueis, remained. Or at least that's what many believe. What do you think? Anyways, that's it for this video. If you feel like supporting the channel, and if you have the time to check out my Patreon, link is in the description, where for $1 or more a month you can get early access to videos and some exclusive content which I keep planning on posting there but can't seem to get around to doing it. Anyways, goodbye, stay hydrated, and have a good day or night.